Welcome back, focused learners. Okay, let's dive into this, because today we're tackling a super frustrating, totally invisible battle that is probably happening inside your house right at this very moment. Seriously, we're talking about the endless, exhausting war against hard water, and more importantly, how you actually choose to fight it. If you've ever tried looking into fixing your home's water quality, you know exactly how overwhelming it can be, right? You've probably seen the endless debates online, the incredibly confusing marketing jargon, salt or no salt. I mean, which system actually protects your home's plumbing and appliances? Well, today, in this explainer, we're setting up the ultimate showdown between traditional water softeners and salt-free conditioners. We're going to cut straight through all that noise and just give you the facts. But before we get to our two contenders, we really need to properly introduce the shared villain of our story. So, what is hard water? It's essentially just water containing really high levels of calcium and magnesium. And these two minerals, they are the invisible enemy. They sneak right through your pipes and form that stubborn, damaging white scale on your water heaters, your internal plumbing, and, yep, even your really expensive shower fixtures. Left unchecked, they literally wreak physical havoc on a home's entire plumbing infrastructure. So, how do we fight back? Well, we basically have two main options, and this brilliantly illustrates the core difference. The first is the traditional ion exchange method. You can think of this as the eviction method. The alternative is the salt-free conditioning method, which is essentially behavior modification. So, we're looking at two totally different technological strategies for dealing with the exact same mineral villains. Round 1, the traditional approach. Let's see how it works. To understand this classic approach, we need to look at the underlying chemistry of the method that's been used for decades. And this is where our eviction analogy really comes to life. See, traditional softeners do not negotiate with calcium and magnesium. They evict them completely out of the house. The system relies on these tiny resin beads that literally attract the calcium and magnesium ions right out of your water. Once those minerals are trapped, the system replaces them with sodium or potassium. Then, when that resin is totally saturated, it regenerates using a brine solution made from salt or potassium chloride. The final outcome? You get water flowing through your house with far, far less calcium and magnesium in it. Because of this aggressive eviction process, traditional softeners are definitely the clear choice for severe scaling. If you're living in a household with older plumbing, or maybe your heat exchange equipment and water heaters are just prone to heavy, stubborn scale buildup all year round, well, traditional softeners provide comprehensive hardness reduction. They simply take the problem completely out of the equation. Moving on to round 2, the salt-free approach. So what happens when we decide to leave those minerals inside the house? Well, instead of evicting them, salt-free systems essentially slap a straitjacket on them. Using catalytic media or specialized templates, these conditioners actually change the physical structure of the minerals. They alter them into forms that are just way less likely to precipitate and stick to your surfaces. However, and guys, this is absolutely vital to understand, because you aren't actually removing the minerals, the water retains similar hardness levels. That means your soap lathering efficiency and, that pesky film on your glass shower doors can still vary. All right, round 3. Let's talk about the real-world trade-offs. Let's step out of the chemistry lab for a second and step into your garage to see what this actually means for your weekend chores. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is how the practical, day-to-day realities of these two competing systems couldn't be more different. For your routine, traditional systems require you to actively add salt, monitor your brine levels, and occasionally service the valves. Salt-free systems? Usually, it's just periodic filter media changes with absolutely no routine salt loading. Now, when it comes to health, traditional systems can increase sodium levels in your treated water. Many folks find this perfectly acceptable, but if you're on a sodium-restricted diet, you definitely need to consult a healthcare professional. You might end up preferring the salt-free route, or you'll need to explore potassium-based regeneration instead. Finally, for scale reduction. The traditional method is completely comprehensive, while the salt-free method is a bit more variable, particularly when it comes to controlling scale on hot water surfaces. The verdict: choosing your hero. Let's figure this out. So, who actually wins? Well, it completely depends on your specific plumbing reality and, honestly, your personal maintenance preferences. To figure out your true winner, you need a highly practical action plan. Step 1 is literally the most important. Get a water test. Seriously, you have to know your hardness levels, usually measured in grains per gallon or milligrams per liter, and your water's overall chemical balance, its alkalinity, before spending a single dime on either system. Step 2, evaluate your primary goals. Are you trying to stop severe, damaging scale, or are you prioritizing a simpler maintenance routine with absolutely no salt? Then step 3, simply match the technology to your test results and your goals. I absolutely love this quote straight from our source material because it just perfectly resolves the entire debate. With the right match, both systems can help, just not in the same way. It's so true. Both of these technologies are incredibly effective heroes. They just require you to deploy them in the right home environment to successfully save the day. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most important question for you to answer today. What is your water really trying to tell you? I genuinely hope this explainer has given you the clarity and the structure you need to go grab a water testing kit, decode your plumbing's cries for help, and finally take control of your home's water quality. Thanks for learning with me today, and I will see you in the next explainer.